Hello Musici, welcome to this new video. In this video I'm going to show you how to realize a Partimento with imitations, even counter emotions imitation, especially around the end. This is a realization I've just done here. I've just recorded the video, then now I show you the realization, then we'll pass to the practical part. This is a Partimento in C major by Insanguine, Italian, very famous. I mean, it's not a famous Italian composer, he's famous in this area of Partimenti of the Neapolitan school. And the very particular aspect of this Partimento is that it's very suitable for two-voice realization, where we have a main subject, which can be imitated like that, like at this point, but there are other imitations, like little canons we can insert in our realization, and even at the end, there's the possibility to do a counter-emotion imitation, but I'll show you how to do these things in the video. Then, if you want them to learn to compose music in that style, go to the link in the description. You can find a way to get in touch with me with an email, and so we can see how we can work together. I even offer one-to-one teaching lesson online. Just let's get in touch and let's see how can we arrange this based on the slots that are free. Then this PDF, the realization, and the other PDF, so the blank PDF, the one you see before the realization, are available in another link in the description to the Patreon page. So if you want to support this project with a little monthly subscription, depending on your possibilities, you can do that, and you can get other contents and other exclusive things in exchange. And so now let's listen to the realization, and then let's go to the process. Bye. Would you like to compose music like a musicus of the Renaissance or Baroque? Imagine a custom-made path with a mentor guiding you step by step. No confusion, no abstract theory, just real music. Partimenti, counterpoint, cadences, fugues, solmization. Each month I work with a small number of musicians in a one-to-one program designed for complete beginners, experienced musicians seeking a clear method, anyone who wants to truly live early music, not just study it from the outside. Want to apply? Send me a message through the form at this link and tell me who you are and your background, what you already know and your current skill, where you would like to go, your goals. I reply within 24 hours, and if it's a good match, let's begin this journey together. Okay then, let's start our realization. First of all, you can see that we have something which is this, and there's an indication which is very interesting, because risp means risposta, so answer, so imitation, answer literally, and 8 here does not mean the number of the chord probably, but what makes sense is the meaning of the interval, of the interval where we want the imitation. So if that note is a C, we want an imitation at the octave, so at the octave referring to the first note. So the best thing we can do here is an imitation, because that's a partimento which requires imitation. And it perfectly works, so let's write it. Remember that you can download this PDF, the version I'm doing, and the blank PDF, so without the notes, from the link in the description on the Patreon page, so you can do your own realization practice with this Partimenti, and this way you can even give your personal support to this big project. Okay, now then we had this thing. You see, if we have a B and if we have a D, for example, we may do imitations, another imitation, we may continue the imitation. How to spot these things? Easy. We are doing an imitation which is after a minima, a half note. So we have to look if after every half note there's a possibility to match this way. So here we can put this, we can do B, it works because it's 5, 6, 8. And then we could have do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re. It works. The only thing is that I wouldn't finish with do, because an octave in that point, it's not so complete. I mean, it's too complete. We need to push the speech forward. So an imperfect consonant, it's much better. For example, a third. Then something that we can do is a conclusion in terms of the phrase the same way as before. So we keep some common elements in phrasing. Ta 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 pam 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 pa 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 pam. An octave higher, so there's a kind of variation. Then if you want to learn all these tricks, all these techniques, the way to do cadences, partimenti, imitations, just get in touch with me, because I even do one-to-one online lessons and teaching on this thing in writing in Baroque and Renaissance style. So if you look at the number 6, 5, 4, 3, okay, we can see that they are the same notes. Ta, 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 the same notes of what? Of this. So for that reason, we may like to introduce the upbeat as well, and in that case it matches, it works. Now, there's something strange if you listen. I'll play it from the beginning. Tell me, I mean, I won't hear your answer, but let's see if you can spot what's the strange thing. This bar is slowing down too much in the rhythm. That's the point. So here I would introduce some variations, I mean faster notes. So that's more interesting. And what about tan tan, concluding with the same conclusion we had before? This is a conclusion of the phrase which is becoming very idiomatic for us for this piece. So we have to continue to use that. Now, there are a few numbers here. Let's see if there's something that we can do following those numbers. For example, what's 6, 3, and 8? So if we just check the numbers 6, 3, and 8, do you see that this is an imitation? And then even if nothing is written, we can see if we can put, because the point is, if we can put those notes there, there may be the possibility to put those notes there. Ta, ta. Yes, they work, but as you can see, this note does not match very well, because this will create a 6/4. So much better for the G to arrive here. So we have we have to expand this F sharp. How? Let's see. We can just stay there. Pam 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 pa, ta. Can be a little boring, I totally agree with that, but we could even add some figuration. For example, before we had this in the bass. Can we do something similar in order to arrive to G? Let's see. The problem is that yes, this is possible. Another thing to take into consideration is that we're going to have another imitation here. So there may be the possibility that we don't want to make here the downbeat. So the G, it's the perfect solution with a 6 chord implied. But let's see what's the next, because then we have a 6, a fifth, which is a D, a 6, which is a D, and a 7, which is a C. So here there's an imitation of this phrase, as you can see. Maybe something more with less movement but more convincing could be tan tan tan, something like that. So that we conclude the phrase tan 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 and tan 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 tan. We are repeating this figuration. This seems more appropriate for us. Tan 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 tan, because we need the downbeat. Tan tan tan. Then we can put a nice rest on the downbeat, and we do the imitation. Pam pam pam. Now here we have to mark the downbeat, of course, and let's see if there is a chance to do an imitation of this phrase. How to do? Just let's try that. Okay. Tan 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 tan. Yes, it works. So then actually there's a rest here. We may see, so do you see that there's something similar? So we can repeat. We have the chance to repeat that figuration. So rest, pam pam pam, this way. Then let's see. We have something which is going, or rather seems to go far, introducing the G sharp. First of all, I would place those two notes, which are very conclusive. Ta-da! Then I don't know if I really want to do something on the G sharp, because the point is where the bass is going. Now we know that the bass is going toward G major, and we know that because here we have the main theme, the main subject in G major. So let's play the bass to see what's going to happen. Sol, la, long, pa pa pam pa la, sol, fa re mi fa sol, okay. Now, what can we do in that place? There may be several and interesting things to do. For example, this thing reminds me this passage. So we may like to reuse that figuration, but a step higher. la, fa, re. In doing that, we are not able to prepare the seventh. And if you're doing a two-voice realization, that's not a problem. Maybe something interesting could be to do something like that. Like if you want to do a little fonte. It's not a fonte, of course, but we shape the melody in order to arrive here where we can imagine a G. Then we have to find a way to arrive in a very persuasive and interesting way to G. What we can do can be, for example, we are slowing down the rhythm because of this section. This section doesn't have any 16th notes, so we may reintroduce some 16th. And what I can see that works is that we can go down to G sharp, which is a third apart, and then we could rise this way. If those are our structural notes, we can have a phrase which can be ta-ra, 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 ta. Now, we have connected B to C. Is there a way to connect C to, for example, this D, which is a sixth, using a similar figuration? Yes, because we are ascending by step. So maybe we can do the same thing, just a step higher, which is a very nice thing. Ta, 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 ta. Remember that when you put figurations and diminutions, you always have to consider the starting note and the arriving note, the target note, always. Ta, 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 ta. Now would be nice to do something which is less stepwise, with more leaps. And if we are here, a kind of anticipation of the following figure can work very well. Pa, la, sol, mi, fa, re. In terms of chords, it's like if we have 6th harmony, then 7 as an appoggiatura of the 5th. Sol, fa, mi, that can work. And our usual conclusion. Dun, 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 dun. Then imitation even here, because now we are in G major, so we can do an imitation, of course, of what we had at the beginning. So let's do the imitation, which means we leave this way, rest, dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, and now let's see what's happening in the bass. So let's play the bass. Dun, dun, pam, 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 pam. Dun, da, re, mi, fa, do, la, sol, la, fa, mi, re. Okay. And then something new appears, so then we go to something which seems G minor because of the B flat, but let's stop here for that moment, to the cadence to A. What we can notice is that there are some common things, like and then there is a transition in the middle, but this is a kind of fonte, I would say, a kind of monte, because G major, then there's not something immediately following in A minor, the same, but there's something in the middle, okay? But at the end, this means that probably what we are going to do here can be repeated there. Now, another noteworthy thing is that here we have the fifth degree, which is repeating itself in the bass. So it's like a long fifth degree, pom, pom, then resolving to that G. What can we do? For example, can we continue to elaborate our figurations, those figurations? Probably yes. One thing that we can do is if it matches. We have to see if it matches, because G, so this figuration can work as G as a structural note, but even G as an appoggiatura to F. You see that we can use this, which is a consonant. Then we can place a C this way, ta, and ta. We can imagine a C and even an A or an A in order to conclude with B. A kind of sol fa fa mi pattern. Sol fa fa mi. Yes. So we repeat this. Ta ta tan tan tan. Ta, tan, ta, tan. It's totally fine to have a 6/4 here when we use this harmony. If I have to write a figure bass, I would write 6/5, then 5 or nothing, then 3 sharp. Here 6/4/3, or just enough to write 6 with a line. Then 6/4. Then 6, because here I'm going to repeat as figuration, dun, 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 and I could do ta, 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 ta. If I want to arrive to this B, I cannot start with a C, but I have to start with pa, 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 pa. I have to repeat the first one. Let's see if it's not too boring. Yes, okay, can be improved actually. How? For example, with triplets or faster notes, or 2 30-seconds. Ta-da-da, 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 this way. Or this can be written. This can be written actually as we did before, with addition of no, we have to write it with real notes. So ta-da-da, ta-da-dum, this way. Ta-da-da, ta-da-da, ta-da-da. Okay. And we can conclude with our usual ending. Now, this is a kind of ponte at the end, of bridge, we could say. So, let's see if there's a way to imitate this. Because then we are coming back to G major. So we can use a 6/4/2 harmony. Tan tan tan, tan tan ta, ta ra ta, ta ra ta, ta ta. The same thing. Ta ra ta ta tan tan, ta ra tan 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 tan. Now, we are moving to A minor. So here the point is, how can we do that? Is there a way to do something similar? Because at the end, the first part is quite similar in the movement. There's a G phase and D, C, and B. So there are some common notes. G, D, and B. G, D, and B. There's a passing tone here instead of the repetition. Pam, pam, pam. So we could repeat the phrase. Tan, tan, tan. And then the triplets. Ta-da-dan, 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 tan, tan, in A minor. Ta-da-dan, ta-da-dan, tan, tan. Then here we can repeat the whole orange section as it is. This way, okay. So, rest, 16th rest, la, sol, la, sol, la, sol, la, la, tan, ta, ta, ra, tan, 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 ta, la, ta, ra, tan, ta, ta, la, sol, la, ti, ti, ta, 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 tan, 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 ta, 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 tin, la, sol, la, sol, la, ti, ta, ti, ti, tan, ti, tan, ti, tan, taran, tan, taran, tan. This figuration can be maybe a little boring again, so to give a little different touch, we may like to do something different in the conclusion, like tan, tan. Let's see how's the effect. I forgot. Taran, tan, taran, taradan. Now we can enhance triplets, but in order to do that we have to be really aware of where we are going to. Because, oops, there are some rests which disappeared. Okay, where are we going to? Pam 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 pam. Here, some imitation can be done. Back to C major. So we could say that we can focus on that section, because then we come back to C major. So that's the transition into the minor mode. Let's see what we can do. Pam 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 pam. This is something we have already found before, if you remember. I'm talking about this section. Pam pam. It's similar. It's quite similar. It can work. So let's start to write the possible structure. Pam 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 pam. Should be after. Pam 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 pam. And the imitation perfectly matches, as you can see. pam, because this creates a 2-3 suspension in the bass. Tan, tan, ton, tan, tan. And even that tan, 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 perfectly works. Tan, tan, pam. And I have to say more, that if we do tan, 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 then to the B flat, fa, it's a third, tan, 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 so it goes there. It's a canon, this part is a canon. So I'm going to place those two notes, sol, fa. Now I'm going to place those notes, tan, 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 tan. For example, we have been playing before in a very high register, so it could be fine now to be in the minor mode and even in a low register. This creates a very nice contrast. Ton, ta, 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 sol, fa, mi. Even this figuration can be set in a sequence if you look at this, because we can have ta, ra, sol, la, sol, fa, fa. Then this doesn't work anymore actually, because there's another imitation we have to look for, which is this one. So as you can see, first of all, I'm pointing out those points which are the most important things, the ones we have to keep in order to do a proper realization of this partimento, which requires imitation. Then this ton, ton, ton. This seventh is taken in a very strange way, but at the end could work, because it's a seventh which is then passing to the bass and resolving here with a sixth harmony. So we could use this figuration, the figuration we had before. Now let's see the connection. Here we said that we can put this pam 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 pam. Okay, and what about the connection? Let's see. So it's clear that we want to move to D minor. So if we could do a cadence enhancing the triple, no, they are not triple, this very fast figuration, it's a nice thing. And we could do another fake imitation. Ta, ta, la, ta, ta, ta. Let's see how we can manage this. So, ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ta. This way, la, sol, la, fa, mi, re. So let's consider these notes which are a third apart. This implying the A major chord with the seventh work. So if we can do that, if we can do this, taratan, taratan, taratan. G sharp, taratan, 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 which is fare but with faster notes, because in the previous part we had faster notes, so 30 seconds. Now we add one more level of diminutions. for even having variation. Okay, now the canonic section. It's even true that this time we could use slower notes in the conclusion, so we can expand the rhythm, for example, that's a nice thing. Then I don't like to have two G's in that point, so these are too much parallel octaves. I mean, at least we have something contra motion here, so better to keep that direction, okay? But then you see that if we follow the same pattern, fa, la, sol, fa, ta, 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 we arrive to G, but that would be too repetitive. If we want to arrive to the lower G, we can do something which is just a transposition down, but it's too low and too close to the bass. In that case, the best solution consists in using a technique implying in counter motion. So this way, down a third, la, fa, sol, fa, la, sol. This way we can stay in a middle register with counter motion of that figuration, and arrive to the notes we want. Here it is. Now let's see what happens, because from this point we are back to G major. So mi la sol fam pam 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 pam. That's the reprise from the beginning. And what about this last time, having a counter motion imitation? Ton, 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 mi, sol, fa, la, sol, mi, sol, fa, la, sol, pam, pam. That's nice. Then sol, fa, mi, re, do. Even here, counter motion. Sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, mi, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, mi. What do I mean with counter motion? I mean that here that's a descending arpeggio, and here that's an ascending arpeggio. Descending third, we need a descending fourth, of course. Then here there's something which is ascending and descending. Here there's something which is ascending, descending, and ascending. This is what I mean with counter motion. Now we have to see this part because it's the one in the middle. So let's see what we can do. What I can tell you is if I take these notes and if I try to put them here, they work. Remember that this is a partimento which is conceived for having imitation. Fa, mi, la, sol, fa, mi. Then, when we have those things, pam, pam, home, this syncopation can have a 4/2, a tied note, tied bass. Here, we may do something similar to that. And here we may anticipate this in the melody. But if I do so, because of invertible counterpoint, we could do this. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. So we arrive with F sharp here. Dun, dun. And we have do, re, mi, fa, sol. Pum, 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 pum. Do, re, mi, fa. Yes. And so we have the sixth. Another thing we may like to do is an invertible counterpoint at the 12th instead of at the 15th. So where this C here is inverted into G. Let's write both possibilities. Possibility number one, just regular imitation at the octave. Imitation at the 12th, actually that's at the 15th. At the 12th, and then back to G. For having more variety, this is the point. It's even true that if we introduce something like this is bad because we will arrive with a fifth. So la fa sol la sol fa la sols. And look at this. We said we arrived to C. Let's engage the imitation we had at the beginning. Dun, dun, dun. La, sol, fa, mi. So we place a third there, and then la, sol, fa, mi. Yes. ta 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 ta, la sol fa mi, ta 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 ta, so fa la sol fa mi. This is something which works very well, and I like it. I don't know if you want something else, maybe, because I have the feeling and the impression that this syncopation may be used with the following thing, but I'm not so sure. So let's do again. Ta ta sol fa. Now from G to C. From G. So before we had from C to G, and like the tonal answer in the fugue, dun, 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 from G now to C, which makes sense, and then la sol fa mi in the hexachord we need. That's a nice example of a tonal answer in a fugue. La sol fa mi, la sol fa mi. So this should be an E. If that's the answer in a fugue, if that's the subject, the tonal answer will be this way. La sol fa mi, mi. Now let's see how to manage this passage. And here we said that we use an octave leap, and it could make sense because we reach the G in two ways. Now, if we can do something which is something like that but ascending, it's perfect, because then we arrive at the top, there will be rest, and then contrary motion imitation, very unexpected. So if we do ta 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 ta, mi to tan tan, fa mi la sol, which creates a 6 harmony, 6 4 2. In that case, we have to switch immediately to the B. Let me see if I've copied. Yeah, it should be correct. Yes. Even if it's not correct, the way I copied the Partimento, let's make it work because it's nice. Ta 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 ta. Ta 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 ta. I like that. Ta 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 la. So we aim the third. La fa sol mi fa, because it's another third. So third and third, and then fa mi fa sol mi fa. La sol mi fa re. What's very nice of this thing is that we have a little sequence within the figuration, because this remains the same, ta-da-da and ta-da-da, but here we have la fa sol mi fa re mi, but then concluded with sol mi fa re do. Then rest here. Ta la ta 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 la sol fa mi. So here we can have an E. Sol fa mi re. Pay attention, but because if we do sol fa mi re mi, this sounds like a mistake, like parallel octaves, because sol mi. But if we do sol fa mi re sol and we repeat this figuration, sol to mi sol fa la sol fa mi da 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 da. Sol fa ta ra tan 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 ta ra tan ta ra ta tan ta ra tan ta la la ta 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 ra ta do so fa do. That's a clear sequence, which is to fa pam 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 pam, developed with fa descending thirds, la ta tan tan tan. So let's see if we can do something interesting. Because do you see that this figuration has a descending second, and here we have a descending second? So we may like to use thirds or sixths, because they are the two consonances we can use one after another. Ta-ra-da, ta-ra, ta-ra, tan, something like that. So okay, now let's build the sequence. If we do tan tan ta la fa sol mi fa, this makes sense. Tan ta ta la fa sol mi fa, because we arrive to this third. Then the next one should be here on E. Mi re mi fa pa pa sol mi fa re mi. La fa sol mi fa, la fa sol mi, pam pa 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 pa, and then pam 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 pam, contrary motion. So instead of descending after the three notes, now ascending, ta ta ta, tan, arpeggio. The harmony in the figure bass here is 6. Yes. Yeah, I like this sequence. Let's do that. Sol, sol, mi, fa, re, mi, mi. Mi, re, mi, fa, ta, 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 ta. Sol, la, fa, re, mi, do, re, la, sol, la, fa, re, mi, do, re. Now we have done something for one time. We have repeated something for the second time. We can start the repetition, but then we have to continue in another way. So, la, sol, la, fa, re, mi, do, re. For example, da, sol, la, fa, re, mi, do, re. So we need to engage a third. And we may arrive there, let's see. Fa, sol, mi. Yes, so la, sol, la, fa, re, ta, ta, ta. As the bass goes down, we go up, sol, fa, sol, and we break the pattern of the sequence. So only the first part is the same. Ta, ta, ra, sa, sol, la, fa, sol. We continue to go up. Sol, fa, sol, fa, sol, mi, fa, la, sol, la, fa, mi, fa, do, la, ta, ta, fa. And so we can do the contrary motion imitation. Fa, mi, fa. That's quite spicy. Why not? I like it. So, ta 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 ta. Dun 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 dun. Very spicy, yeah? But we can adjust this from this note. Do, fa, mi, fa. Back to E natural. 7, fa, sol. E, fa, sol, fa, mi, fa, and we conclude with 3 notes. So this is the final section, the final sequence, let's say from the reprise imitation. Okay, and now let's play this Partimento from the beginning. And that was the realization of my Partimento by Insanguine with imitations. Then you can download this version, my version with my notes on Patreon, link in the description, even with the blank version so you can write your own version. Then if you want to learn to compose in this style, just get in touch with me, email me, and let's see if we can work together based on the period of the year and how many slots free I have, because I have only 24 hours, so I have to do my best to manage all the slots. Nice! So, in general, in any case, see you in the next video. Bye! Do you want to learn how to compose music in the Renaissance or Baroque style? If you are at the beginning of your musical journey, or a professional looking to deepen your knowledge of early music, the best path may be a guided integrated course. Composing in the style of the 16th century or the 17th and 18th century requires much more than knowing harmony and counterpoint. You need to navigate a vast world, including Solmization, Fugue, Cantus, Firmus, Mensural notation, Partimenti, dances, chorales and more. To avoid getting lost, you need an experienced guide, a musicus practicus who knows the path, walks beside you step by step, and helps you overcome each challenge with tailored exercises, attentive feedback, and continuous dialogue. Have a question about a topic? We'll discuss it. Stuck on an exercise? We'll work through it together. Want to go deeper into a subject? We'll tackle it with focus. Every month I accept a limited number of apprentice musicians like you for a program of personalized one-to-one lessons where I guide them in learning to compose in the Renaissance and Baroque style. How it works? During our one-to-one lessons we focus on 2- and 3-voice composition, counterpoint and partimenti, practical exercises on historical style, schemata, cadences, voice leading, models, patterns, and much more. During the week, you'll also follow recorded lessons on repertoire analysis, pattern structure, tones and modes in polyphony, rhythm of historical dances, and everything else you need to progress. This way, each individual lesson becomes focused, effective and productive. If you'd like to apply for the musical apprenticeship program, go to the link and fill out the form telling me your musical background, studies, experiences, instruments, what you play, your current skill, what you can compose, if you know Partimenti, chorales, anything else, and your goals, what you would like to learn in the short, medium and long term. I'll personally read your message and get back to you within 24 hours to let you know how we can work together. Don't miss the spot and learn to compose music as if you had lived in the Renaissance or in the Baroque.